you mustn't have the naive idea, which even some of your professors will teach, that you can choose your epistemology with a kind of neutrality toward whether there's a God or what the nature of reality is. You choose your epistemology, and everyone comes to agree on what the method of knowing will be, and then we all take that method of knowing and we apply it to the world, and we find out what reality is all about. So here's a hokey little story to show you why that's impossible. Let's imagine that you have an apple orchard, and you've got a lot of apples coming in, and you want to sell these apples, and in order to do so, you're going to have to sort the good apples from the bad apples. Because if you just dump any number of apples indiscriminately and arbitrarily into a box, try to sell them, you're going to find that the produce people who turn around and sell this to the public will be very unhappy with you. They don't want to buy a box that arbitrarily has bad apples in it. And so in order for you to make money selling your apples, you're going to have to sort the apples. And so you devise a machine that sorts the apples. And you dump all of your apples into this machine, and I don't even know what the internal guts of this thing would look like, but the apples go in this side, and then the machine does its work, and then the good apples come out over here into one bin and the bad apples into another bin. All right, you all got the picture? An apple sorting machine, great idea. We want to determine the good apples from the bad apples, and what we're going to do is devise a machine to do that for us. Now that machine, in the broadest sense, is a method of apple sorting. Right? That machine pursues some procedure or method whereby the good and the bad apples are separated. And now here's the $64,000 question. Are you all awake? Would it be possible to devise such a machine, that is, put together such a method, if you did not know in advance a good apple from a bad apple? What if I was new to this whole realm? Let's say I had never been exposed to apples in my life. I hardly knew what an apple was. And I inherit this orchard. And then I'm going to build a machine that separates the good apples from the bad apples when I know nothing about apples. What's the likelihood of success? Oh, nearly zero. I suppose if this universe has any kind of randomness to it, I might accidentally make a machine that does it. What I'm getting at is, if you don't know something about apples to begin with, you can't devise a method for separating them. And in the same way, if you don't know something about the universe to begin with, if you don't know something about reality to begin with, if you don't know something about the difference between truth and error about the universe to begin with, you can't devise a method that separates the true conclusions from the false conclusions about reality, can you? You can't even devise an epistemology, an apple sorting machine, unless you already know something about reality. You already know something about the apples to begin with. Everyone begins with a worldview. Everyone begins with a certain view of reality. And in terms of that reality, or that perception, that conception of reality, you devise your epistemology, your theory of knowledge. And so neutrality is indeed impossible. What I've been arguing against here is called philosophical Methodism. It has nothing to do with the Methodist Church. Philosophical Methodism is the view that method takes precedence over every other consideration in philosophy. One first gains a method of knowing, and then you argue about ethics. Then you argue about metaphysics. And the apple sorting machine story was simply to illustrate the impossibility of philosophical Methodism. Nobody has a theory of knowledge that is neutral. You need to realize that every system of thought has a starting point which verifies itself. And that's not the sort of thing you're going to hear at the university. People don't like to admit that. But it's inescapable. Every system of thought has what we call a self-attesting authority for itself. For you see, every system of thought, when it develops its apple sorting machine, is going to have to verify and verify the claims that are made, but eventually he's going to stop verifying and saying that's just it, that's the obvious. Because no argument runs on and on and on and on. Every system of thought gets to the place where they say that's the most basic standard for knowing.